Is it lined up? Everything's good?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, guys, hope you had a good spring break. Hopefully you did. I did. Anyway. Any questions about anything that we've gone over? I know that we had a couple of speakers last week. We're going to have Judge Montemayor coming on Wednesday. So for those of you that aren't here, I know that a couple of you, one had to work, one had a family member that was sick, and another one had another family member, child that was sick. So I mean, if you guys can make it on Wednesday, please be here. I mean, I'm trying to get, you know, these guys here for y'all. You know, it's not for me, you know, it's for you guys. So I mean, you know, the benefit is, you know, to be here. You know, and I understand that things come up, and that's okay. So if you can be here, great. If you can't, you know, watch the video, please. I mean, because it's good. So hopefully you guys have some questions for him on Wednesday. And what he's going to talk about is kind of the day in the life of a CPS judge and kind of what he thinks or what he expects of a court reporter. And I think it will kind of be both. You know, to where, you know, where most judges, what they're going to expect of the court reporter, okay? So it'll be questions along those lines. So I think it covers chapter, what was that? You told me?
Just the court system?
Yeah.
Chapter
35. Yeah, chapter 35. Okay, so it should cover that chapter. A little, I mean, it is and it isn't. We may go over that chapter again just because it kind of covers other stuff, but it's going to cover a little bit. So where we are is chapter 30. Did you guys read that? Yeah? Okay. All right. So I think we're going to do 30, hopefully 31, maybe 32, just depending. We'll kind of see how far we get or whatever. So ethics of court reporting, okay? So the objectives of this is to find what ethics means, discuss the NCRA Code of Professional Ethics and the NCRA General Guidelines for Professional Practice, okay? So ethics are a set of moral guidelines by which one conducts one's personal life and business practices. Ethics may be very predefined by certain religious or cultural standards. Our personal ethics are formed by past events in our own lives and by the influences of those who have been responsible for our upbringing. Some ethicists have said that ethics are a responsibility or duty that individuals have toward each other, while others say that ethics are a matter of personal choice. Ethics can be expressed or implied, that is, they can be written or understood. The National Court Reporters Association has developed a list of professional ethics that serve as a guide for members of the organization. In addition, a set of guidelines of professional practices have been established by the NCRA. So the preamble to the Code of the Professional Ethics and General Guidelines for Professional Practice is presented with permission from the NCRA, and it reads as follows. You guys can kind of go through and, you know, read that preamble or whatever, and it's just kind of a code by which, well, you know what, I'll read it. The Mandatory Code of Professional Ethics defines the ethical relationship the public, the bench, and the bar have a right to expect from a member. The code sets out the conduct of the member when dealing with the users of reporting services and acquaints the user as well as the member with guidelines established for professional behavior. The guidelines for professional practice, on the other hand, are goals which every member should strive to attain and maintain. Members are urged to comply with the guidelines and must adhere to local, state, and federal rules and statutes. It should be noted that these guidelines do not exhaust the moral or ethical considerations with which the members should conform, but provide the framework for the practice of reporting. Not every situation a member may encounter can be foreseen, but a member should always adhere to fundamental ethical principles. By complying with the Code of Professional Ethics and Guidelines for Professional Practice, members maintain their profession at the highest level. And that's really what they're striving for, is that, you know, you always try to keep a professional business conduct. You know, always show respect to everyone. You know, and that was just kind of, you know, in my upbringing too. I think I kind of told you guys, you know, my grandfather, you know, taught me at a very young age that you always show everyone respect, everyone. So it doesn't matter if it's, you know, the person cleaning the toilets in the bathroom, or if it's the president of the United States. You show everyone the same respect, you know, until they don't show you respect, you know, then it's kind of game on or whatever. But, you know, you always show that respect, you know, respect to people, you know. So, and that's really what, and you know, people appreciate it, you know, and you know, we're held to a higher standard because you're seen as, you know, someone high in the legal community. You know, so just like an attorney, just like a judge, you know, people kind of see us the same. You know, I mean, we're up there, and I'm not making fun of clerks or, you know, court coordinators or whatever. I mean, everybody has a job and everybody does their job, and you know, you're kind of seen as those guys in the higher or the upper echelon of the legal community. So, you know, you kind of conduct yourself in the same way, and when people see that, you know, I think it really shines through. So when people see that, they're like, you know what, I want this person taking my depots, or I want this person sitting in court with me, because you know what, they exude professionalism that I expect of a court reporter. And it shines on them too. So I mean, if you're some person that always slouching, just late all the time, late on getting your records in, real nonchalant, just blah, 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 it kind of reflects on the judge, and it kind of reflects on the firm that you go to work for. You know, so they're going to see that, you know. So if you're always dressed nice, you're always, you know, put up the way that you should, it reflects in everything else, and that's what people want, okay? And that's what they're kind of talking about there. Any questions about that? Kind of a long chapter. And that's it for tonight. They kind of go into code or professional ethics, you know, and it's always, and I think, you know, and it should be almost an unwritten rule. I mean, you know, and you always show, be fair and impartial towards each participant in every aspect, and you should do that anyway, you know, with everything, you know, we do, and we're not always, but, you know, especially, you know, with your job. I mean, you know, you never show anybody favoritism towards anything, all right? Well, give me that transcript, but, you know, don't tell the other side, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. You're gonna get yourself in trouble. Because when they come to that, well, Judge, it says right here in the transcript that, you know, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. When did you get the transcript? I wasn't notified that you got the transcript, and, you know, I'd like to see in the transcript where it says that. Now the other side is arguing that they weren't notified and that you didn't notify them about the other side ordering the transcript. You know, and it can get a little dicey. You know, and I think I told you guys about one time that an attorney asked me to do that. You know, I need that transcript or whatever. And, you know, okay, well, I'll look it up. Told her how much. She got me the check, whatever, and I said, you could, you know, she said, but don't tell the other side, you know, whatever. I said, well, I have an obligation. No, you don't. Yeah, I do. Well, where does it say that? Well, I'm not exactly sure where it says that, but I'll find out. So I started going to my other court reporting friends. It's like, look, I know it says that. Yeah, it does. So we, you know, we're doing some homework on it, whatever, and one of them finds it. And it's like being partial to each side. And if somebody orders a transcript, you have an obligation to let the other side know. They don't have to order it, but you at least tell them, hey, look, the other side ordered it. A copy's going to be blah, blah, blah. Are you interested? No, I'm not. So the best thing to do on that is usually to send out an email. You know, I know it seems dinosaurish to send out emails now or whatever, but always keep a paper trail, you know, so that they come back and they say, well, you know, hey, do you want that transcript? No. Are you sure? Yeah, no, I don't. Okay, bye. you know, and you hang up, and then, well, you know what, Judge, they never told me anything. What? I just called you the other day, you didn't talk to me. Now it's your word against their word, and, you know. So don't put yourself, try not to put yourself in that situation, you know, and sometimes it's innocent, you know, and it's like, you know what, I'm juggling 75 cases, you know, this attorney is, and it's like, I don't remember everything and every phone call and blah, 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 and then, you know, the secretary doesn't, and, you know, but if you send an email, it's like, there it is right there. Oh. And you replied, no. Oh. Now you got him. You know, so then it's like, oh. You know, and it could be, like I said, it's innocent, but, you know, you just don't want to show impartiality. Be alert to situations that are conflicts of interest or that may give the appearance of a conflict of interest. If a conflict or a potential conflict arises, the member shall disclose that conflict or potential conflict. Yeah. You know, so if something comes up, you know, that you think, well, I don't know, I mean, don't say nothing, no, don't do that. I mean, always disclose to the other side, hey, look, you know, this is what happened, and you know, I need to know, you know, you want a copy, what do you want to do about this, blah, blah, blah. So guard against not only the fact, but the appearance of impropriety. You don't want it to seem like, you know, you're impartial to one side or the other. You know, and I think some of that goes back to, you know, if you're in a depot and it says, you know what, you go off the record right now. Well, it's your client telling you, go off the record right now. And the other side, absolutely not. You stay on that record. No, you go off the record. Stay off that record. Go back on the record. You stay on the record. You stay on the record. So if they don't agree, you have to stay on the record. You know, and I don't think that you really owe your client an apology, but it might be wise to maybe go back and say, look, you know, I apologize, but I mean, unless both sides agree, and he or she should probably know through going through law school that, I mean, really they're supposed to do that. So, you know, and I've had attorneys in court hearings say, you know what, Judge, we need to go off the record. No, we're gonna stay on the, no, we need to go off the, no, this is my court, we're staying on the record. You stay on the record. And I had a, you know, an attorney tell me, you go off that record, you go off that. And I'll tell you what I told him, go off that. But you try to be nice, you know, whatever, and it's like, you know what, this is who I work for, this is my boss, he's the main guy, he tells me go off the record, we go off the record. You know, or vice versa, you know, the judge says, you know what, go off the record. No, I want to stay on the record, Judge. No, we need to discuss this off the record. No. That's a different situation. You know, when you're working for a judge and the judge tells you go off the record, you know, that's a totally different situation. You know, so, I mean, I do what the judge tells you to do.
Are you writing that as they're going back and forth?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And when he tells me, go off the record, you know, but the other side will come in, no, you know, you stay on the record, then I try to stay, you know, at least try to get it, and then when, you know, when he tells me, and you'll know when they get off the record, then, yeah, you don't want to get tased. It hurts.
Have you really been
What's
tased?
that? No.
When there's a dispute, like in a deposition,
Yeah.
do you announce, and you said that it was best to stay on the record or whatever, do
Yeah.
you announce I'm staying on the record, or do you just keep going?
You know, I've had both situations where I did tell them, guys, I'm staying on the record. If there's a dispute about going on or off the record, I have to stay on if somebody wants to stay on. If there's not an agreement to go off, okay, yeah, you know. And most of the time they're just like, you know, God, you know, we need to go off the record. I need to discuss stuff with my client, or, you know, we need to discuss stuff. Well, I want it on the record because I want the judge to know there's a record of this thing, and I want the judge to know, you know, what's going on and, you know, what happened here, and, you know, not, so it happens, but it's not, you know, as frequent as you would think. You know, so it's not as bad, but you'll run across it, I guarantee it. Sooner or later, you're going to run across it, so. Preserve the confidentiality and ensure the security of information, oral or written, entrusted by the member to any of the parties in the proceeding. Yeah. So I mean, you know, if it's a high-profile case and, you know, stuff like that, you know, I don't know that I'd, you know, it's gonna be on the news, you know, and I've had, you know, cases where people come to me and they're like, hey man, you know, what about, you know, that lady that starved her kids and I know it was in your court because I saw you, I mean, what you saw on the news is pretty much, and they pretty much explain it on the news, you know, what's going on or whatever, but, I mean, you know, you don't want to come back and, or you're talking about it to someone and you're like, hey man, this thing right there, and her cousin's sitting right there. And it's like, yeah man, this lady was whacked out, and she's starving these kids, and no she wasn't. Huh? Yeah, that's my aunt. So, you know, so you don't want to get caught in that situation where, you know, so, you know, most of the time, you know, and even in certain situations, you know, if it's high profile stuff, a lot of times it's gonna be on the news, so it's gonna speak for itself every now and then. You know, there's stuff, you know, like I was telling you about that divorce, you know, I would never disclose any names, you know, but I mean, I'm telling you because it's a class and telling you the situation of what happens, because you never get enough on the job training. And you think, you know, I've been doing this is 26 years, going to 26 years, and it's like, nothing's gonna amaze me anymore. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. So, I mean, be truthful and accurate when making public statements or when advertising the members' qualifications or the services provided. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to go out there and put yourself, you know, on these depositions that you're an RPR, merit writer, and all of this stuff, and, well, you just passed the state test, you know? And I think that's what they're talking about there. Refrain as an official reporter from freelance reporting activities that interfere with official duties and obligations. Yeah. So you don't want to moonlight as a freelance court reporter. I mean, unless you really have permission to do so. You know, I've taken some depositions in our cases only because, one, I got special permission from my judge. He asked me to do it, but two, I had to adhere to the guidelines of the county. So I could only charge so much. I couldn't charge per hour. I was only charging per page, and I was doing it more as a courtesy to my judge more than anything. You know, to take this deposition, just to try to keep the cost down for the county. So, determine fees independently except when established by statute or court order, entering into an unlawful agreement with other reporters on the fees to any users. So you don't want to go and say, hey, you know, I know that you take a ton of depositions, so you know what, we usually charge $350 a page. I'll charge you $250 a page, but don't tell anybody. No, you're not supposed to do that. You know, or you know, and it was kind of a touchy subject several years back about contracts, you know, with, you know, insurance companies and stuff. Like, well, we'll do all of your work for this price or whatever. You sign a contract, you know, the firm signs a contract with that insurance company to do these things, and it's, you know, but that was, I don't even know what became of it anymore, whatever. So determine fee, refrain from giving directly or indirectly any gift, incentive, reward, or anything of value to attorneys, clients, witnesses, insurance companies, or any other persons or entities associated with the litigation, or to the representative or agents of the foregoing, except, one, the items that do not exceed $100 in aggregate per recipient each year, or two, pro bono services as defined by the NCRA guidelines by professional practice, by applicable state and laws and regulations. So, you know, you sign this, or you just have this agreement with this law firm who spends thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on depositions a month, you know, because they take a lot of depositions or whatever, and it's like, you know what, well, my wife and I want a free vacation to Hawaii every 3 or 4 months or twice a year. You know, and that's the agreement for the firm to do work with this law firm, you know, whatever, you know, no. You know, but, you know, like the firm that I used to work for, our big clients, you know, she used to send them this little tub of tamales. You know, it's at Christmas. You know, we used to get them down at the courthouse. I mean, people used to bring bottles of whiskey and tamales and buñuelos and, you know, all of that stuff. For you white folks, it's that tortilla with the cinnamon sugar. Goodness. It's a bit of heaven. So, I mean, just stuff like that. So it's not going to exceed like, you know, $100, you know. But, you know, it's just something nice that people used to do. They don't really do it as much anymore. I mean, they started cracking down on it. You know, and there's always that one apple. Yeah, I think you know what I'm talking about. But, you know, people were just taking advantage of situations or whatever. So, but it's not supposed to do that. Maintain the integrity of the court reporting profession and abide by the NCRA Constitution and bylaws. Court reporter is the official reporter officer creating the verbatim record of a proceeding. Common sense and professional courtesy should guide the member in applying the following guidelines. 1. Accept only those assignments when the member's level of competence will result in the preparation of an accurate transcript. The member should remove him or herself from an assignment when the member believes the member's abilities are inadequate. So I don't know that I'd go in there and say, you know what, I can do CART, and this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to charge. You know, and you go in there and it's like, you can't do CART. You know, and the people are like, what? I mean, your real time is shoddy at best, you know, much less at a CART level, you know. So, you know, and that's what they're talking about there. Don't put yourself in a situation that you're not ready for, you know, and just tell them, you know, hey, I can do this and that, and you can't.
I've been wondering about this. Like, I know Sarah talks about going into not a deposition, but like a hearing or a court case, and there are tons of people there, and it's just, that would be very overwhelming. Thinking like,
Intimidating.
would, you know, you feel, if you realize that I've only been reporting for a short time and my firm sent me to this thing and I don't feel prepared for this,
Yeah.
it would be appropriate to say, you know what, I'm not. That's my question. Like, you get to a situation, you think, I really don't think I can do this.
You can do it. You think you can, but you can't. You know, what they're talking about here is putting yourself in a situation like doing CART or doing, or you going out and saying, you know what, I'll do all of your depots for this much. I'm not really a court reporter, but, you know, I can do court reporting and I can type it up and, you know, and, you know, I know that you're a doctor and I'll just do your notes and blah, 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 but they need it certified, they don't need it certified, and then all of a sudden you can't do it. You know, it's putting yourself in that situation or putting yourself out there as something that you're not. You know, a hearing like that is a little, you're gonna get sent to them, believe me. And when you go for the first time, I don't know that you ever get in a situation where you feel like, yeah, I got this. You know, when you're in there and it's just a room of people, and I've done it for like a stockholders meeting.
Yikes.
You know, so, you know, this guy's standing up and this guy's standing up and this lady's standing up and this lady's standing up and that guy's standing up asking questions or whatever, and it's like, what am I gonna do? Well, if they don't have it, to me, and this was just my thinking of it, you know what, if you don't have it in a situation where you really have it uniform and structured, and it is what it is. I'm putting man, man, woman, woman every time, so it's coming up unidentified man, unidentified woman. yeah, well, when these shares, blah, blah, blah. You know, and a lot of times they just want the questions out there. Not necessarily who did it or who asked, but I mean, it's just one of the shareholders when you have 2,000 people in a room, or even 150 people in a room. Sir, what was your name? And ma'am, what was your name? And sir, what was your name? Really? You know, and you have to try to get right. And everybody's like, okay, and that's the end of the thing. And everybody's getting up and they're like, hold on. You know, and they're trying to get that paper. And, you know, if it's in court, I'd definitely do it. But at like a shareholders meeting, a stockholders meeting, you know, just some, you know, I don't think it's that situation where, I mean, you would necessarily do it. I think it's more like putting yourself out there for something that you're not.
Okay.
You're certified to do it. You can do it, okay? Prepare the record in accordance with the transcript preparation guidelines established by the statute for the court order by local custom and usage. When sending a substitute reporter, ensure that that substitute is qualified to report the proceedings. Preserve the shorthand notes in accordance with the statute or court order or otherwise for a period of no less than 5 years. Yeah, I mean, if you go to something and, you know, it's like, and we used to do them a long time ago. They were the workers' comp hearings. So you're in front of an ombudsman. And they're having these hearings. So he's kind of like a judge or a referee or, you know, whatever. So it's like, I don't know how long we keep those notes or whatever. So I would always ask the firm, well, you know, well, how long do we have to keep these? Or, you know, well, you know, just keep it. Okay. Forever? Until I die? Well, I mean, what? I mean, so, I mean, if you don't know, then, I mean, at least keep it for a period of 5 years. But if you go to court, you need to know, you know, and you know, I'm still going to have the reporter come in, the criminal court reporter come in and talk to you guys about it. And I'm almost certain that it's 12 years. It's either 12 or 15. It's a long time that you have to keep your notes and stuff on stuff like that. But for civil, it's only 3 years. Meet promised delivery dates whenever possible. Make timely delivery of transcripts when the due date is specified. Strive to become and maintain proficient in the member's professional skills. Keep abreast of current literature, technology advances and developments, and participate in continuing education programs. Very important. Assist in improving the reporting profession by participating in national, state, and local association activities that advance the quality and standard of the court reporting profession. Cooperate with the bench and bar for improvement of the administration of justice. As part of the reporting profession's commitment to the principle that reporting services should be available to all members, and members are encouraged to provide pro bono services when requested through qualified legal assistant organizations providing free legal services to the indigent. Yeah. I mean, you're kind of supposed to. I mean, you know, they ask you to do it, and sometimes St. Mary's Law will call, you know, down here to the school sometimes and say, hey, you know, but I mean, sometimes they want like reporters to come down there, and that's kind of the pro bono work that you do. I mean, you just kind of, you know, go sit down there. I think it's a good thing for you guys to do, especially at a speed of maybe 160, 180, you know, to go down there and kind of get a feel of what it is, and you know, so it's actually pretty cool. And they're usually pretty good at that stage. I mean, they're just as nervous as you guys. So, you know, for the most part, you know, and most of the instructors will tell them, you know, try to speak slow, clear, you know, because you're speaking to not only the judge, other attorney, the witnesses, you know, whoever, but you're trying to make a record here also. And if they're not getting it, you know, they're going to let you know. So they're actually pretty good about it. Real-time reporter in legal proceedings. A real-time reporter is, in this setting, is a court reporter using real-time skills and equipment to provide verbatim on-screen translation for the use in legal proceedings. A clear explanation and understanding of the real-time reporter's role is necessary among all parties of the proceeding. Common sense and professional courtesy should guide the member in applying the following guidelines. 1, establish if possible before beginning a real-time reporting assignment, a clear understanding of who will require real-time services. So a lot of times, you're just gonna take your computer in there and kind of do it for you. But if they want a real-time, usually they'll call in and say, you know what, we've got a depot coming up on Wednesday, and we're gonna need a real-time reporter. Okay, well then you gotta set up for them, you know, if the other side wants it, then, you know, you ask them, hey look, you know, the one side ordered it, are you guys gonna want real time also? You know what, if the other side is getting it, usually the other side doesn't want the other side to have more than what they think they're getting or whatever, so a lot of times they'll want it too. Accept assignments using discretion with regard to skills, setting, and the consumers involved, and shall accurately represent their qualifications for real-time reporting. When possible, acquire information and material in advance for the preparation of the job dictionary. Yeah. So I mean, if you're going in there and it's a job about, you know, the Eagle Ford shell, you know, and you have no idea, you know, what it is, I mean, you need to get a little bit acquainted with it. So, you know, ask the attorney or whatever, hey, if you have any documents, can you send it to me? I just kind of want to build a dictionary on some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about, because I know that you guys want it real time or whatever. So, you know, the first time I heard it, I thought it was the Eagle Ford shell, S-H-E-L-L. Y'all know it's not that? Okay. S-H-A-L-E, Eagle Ford shell. But it's pronounced shell.
Right here, shale.
Shell. You know, and everybody says it, you know, so fast that it
So
sounds
fast,
like,
right, it's
yeah,
one word.
it's an Eagle Ford shell.
And-
Shell.
Yeah.
Well, I thought, you know, the first time I heard it, it's like, yeah, it's that shell of that eagle with the Ford. Yeah, that's not it. So, you know, you want to make sure that you're acquainted with, you know, kind of what's going on, you know, especially if it's a real-time videotaped deposition of an Indian doctor. Holy cow. You know, and we had one where I took the deposition of a doctor, and he's a pretty well-known doctor here in town. One, he's a good doctor, and two, I mean, he's really known for taking expert depositions on medical stuff or whatever, and he is just, wow. His accent is really thick, and he's a really smart guy. But, I mean, it was videotaped and whatever. So, like, the first time I took it, I think it was with a new attorney that had never taken him before either. So we were taking this deposition, and you know, the doctor kept talking about these certain giritis of the procedure. And so the first time I heard it, you know, I look at the attorney, and the attorney looks at me like, you got that, right? Because, yeah, because this ear is magical, and this one shoots rays of rainbow stuff. No, I mean, I don't hear anything different than you do, you know? So I just wrote what I heard, you know, and you know, we took a break or whatever, and I went to him and I said, hey, doctor, you know, you were talking about this thing, and I saw that you were reading from this paper. I was wondering if I could get a copy of that, or if I could see it, you know, real quick, or if I can ask you about something. Yeah, you know, what you got? I knew he's a super cool guy. and I said, you were talking about the giritis of this certain procedure. And he goes, what? Giritis? Yeah. And he's looking at me like I was the one who said it. And the attorney, which is kind of funny because it was one of our clients or whatever, and he's like, that's what I heard. I heard that too. He goes, what? I said, well, you know, and I kind of pulled it up and I said, well, this was what you were reading, and this is what led up to that certain. He goes, no, it's the giritis. That was the characteristics of this certain. Really? And it was characteristics. But he would say it so fast, and it was the certain giritis.
Oh.
And it was characteristics of this certain procedure and method, and it's like, he goes, yeah, the giritis. Oh, the giritis. Oh, giritis. Oh. and then, you know, it got to be, you know, and I, you know me, I'm gonna make a joke of anything, whatever, so I just kept saying it, and he kept saying it, and the attorney's laughing because he knows exactly what I'm doing or whatever, but, so it was kind of funny. So you're gonna run across, you know, things like that, you know, just like Sarah was talking about, you know, when she heard what she thought she heard, and it was totally different. You know, and it's just like the Eagle Ford shell, and God, I can't even remember. I can't even remember what it was.
What Sarah's was?
Yeah.
Cock block.
Oh yeah, and it was top
Top
block. Top
Yeah.
Yeah.
block. Yeah, because you met the top, you know, whatever, and it's like, and this guy's talking about the top block for 45 minutes or whatever, and you know, you get your errata sheet back, and it's all these corrections. So it wasn't cock block; it was top block. Oh yeah. So, you know, be careful, you know, with that, and you're going to hear funny things like that all the time, and sometimes it is what you think you heard, you know, and you know, people just say what they say, you know, and they think out loud, you know, and I, especially like in my court, you know, where you're not, and I'm not making fun of anybody, but sometimes you deal with lower educated people, so they just say what they say, and they say it the way, you know, street slang, you know, and sometimes you hear street slang and it's like, what? So it's not in the dictionary, so I mean, I'm telling you, Google's going to become one of your best friends, because you're going to, and have you ever gone onto that Urban Dictionary?
Yeah.
Wow. Holy cow. Everything. You know, and I'll tell you guys about something later, but I mean, it was just crazy what this, you know, this girl was talking about, and it's like, So my judge is, I mean, he's always fascinated when you, so he's up there and he's Googling stuff all the time, and it was a drug. It was a drug that this girl was taking, and it had a really funny name to it, like purple brass monkey, or you know, something crazy. I mean, it was just funny, and it was like, yeah, and she was on brass monkey and blah blah blah. And he's like, what? What'd you say? Yeah, brass monkey. And it wasn't it, but it was something crazy, you know, like that or whatever. So we looked it up, and it was some derivative of, you know, like meth or something. I don't know, when it's laced with something else and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, and it had it in the Urban Dictionary. You had to look it up in the Urban Dictionary, and it had it. So you're going to hear stuff all the time. So
for that, are they talking about days before trying to get this stuff, or just get there early and try to get stuff?
both. I mean, if you know, and sometimes you don't know, because, they'll wait till the night before to tell you, hey, look, you're going to take a depo tomorrow to videotape deposition of Dr. Duraj. That's the doctor that I was talking about, the Indian doctor. And then you get into cold sweats and panics, and it's a little intimidating when you go in and take his depo. I mean, because he's got his stuff usually in line, but holy cow, So it's challenging a little bit, and you know that it's videotaped, so it has to be word for word. So it's a little intimidating. But if you know that you're going to go in there, that's why I tell you guys, get there early. One, get there early because you can talk to the nurse, say, hey, look, is there any paperwork on what they're going to take today or whatever on the patient or whatever? I just want to look at it just so I can get familiar with some of the words, and I can put them into, my dictionary now, write them now, so I know that what we're talking about, and they're talking about the mandibular whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, and it's like, you don't have mandibular prosthetic blah 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 in there, so you never know what they're going to be talking about. So I mean, you want to be acquainted with what, and not, oh dang, and they're like mandibular, and they're still going. It's like, no, all right, mandib, and you're, man, is it dib? And they're going, they're still going, and you're trying to figure out how to write this word. No, you just, mandibular, and you try to write it out mandibular, and then the next time you just do mand, M-A-N-D, the next time, because it's like, I don't know what I heard. I think I heard mandibular, but it could be man, is it dibler, mandubler, or, you know, you never know. So you write it the way that you think that you heard it, and then you can change it at the end. And then at the end, you know, you get it the right way, and it's like, oh God, that wasn't even close. Well, it doesn't matter, because you wrote it the same every time, so it doesn't really matter that this guy is saying mandibular, and it's the same thing, and this guy is saying mandibular. The mandibular procedure of the, well, mandibular. God, maybe it's the same, maybe it's not the same. I'm talking about the same procedure or whatever, but this guy is from up north, so he talks a little bit different, you know, but he just says it different. But it's the same thing, okay? So, when possible, acquire information materials in advance. 4, know the software and hardware system used to be able to do simple troubleshooting. So you go in there and it's like, it's not working today. Well, these guys paid for a real time, you know, and I was just talking to a female friend of mine who's a court reporter who still does depositions. She was saying that she always carries 2 cords, always has a backup, you know, whatever, and it's like, for what? She goes, Dave, it happened. I've been doing this for 30-something years, and it happened. I mean, where one of my cables didn't work, and it was just loose, you know, on the USB little fitting or whatever, and it's like, you know, and that's all it took. It needed to sit up, so she had to put a little piece of paper in there. Well, she remembered she had another one, so she put it in there, and it worked fine. But if you don't have the other one, then you've got this little piece of paper sitting under the thing, so it has to stay up, and then all of a sudden, the guy goes, doggone it, or whatever, the piece of paper, you know, comes a little bit loose, the real time goes out, and then it's like, oh, hold on, and there you are trying to fiddle with that piece of paper, and it just looks a little ridiculous. So always be ready. Strive to further your knowledge and skill through participation in workshops, professional meetings, interaction with professional colleagues, and reading of current literature in the field. A disclaimer and/or order should be transmitted as a cover or cover sheet with each uncertified rough draft transcript, stating that the uncertified rough draft transcript cannot be quoted in any pleading or in any other purpose, and may be filed with any court. It may not be filed with any court. So if they just want a rough draft or whatever, then you have to tell them, hey, look, this isn't a copy that you can use in court or whatever. I'm not going to certify to it. I'm not going to put a certificate on it, sign the certificate. So, I mean, this is just a rough, yeah, I just need something today just to get me through or whatever. And I saw that your real time was coming up and it was pretty clean or whatever. So I just need a rough draft tonight, and then you can give me the hard copy, you know, in a couple of days. But I'm flying to New York to take a deposition. I just kind of want to go over some of the stuff that we did today. And I know that, one, I don't want to pay for a rush. But 2, you know, I know that you can't get it cranked out to me by this evening because I take my flight in the morning. So, oh yeah, you know, I'll just print you out a rough draft. Okay? Communicating access, real-time translation cart. So a cart provider in a legal setting performs real-time translation as an aid to communication for people who are deaf or hard of hearing or hearing impaired. Common sense and professional courtesy should guide the member in applying for the following guidelines. When cart is provided in a trial or deposition setting, special legal requirements may apply. And just like, you know, Whitney was telling us that, you know, she's gone in and provided cart services for a juror that needed it. Well, when they ask for a readback, they're not asking her to read back, you know, and it's not provided for, you know what, well, I'm gonna get a copy from you, and instead of paying $6 a page, I'll pay you $4.50 or $5 a page. No, that's not the way it works. The official record is with the official reporter that sits in there. She's providing cart services for a juror that's there. So one, she's not producing something that should be typed up anyway. It's just for that person for that day. Remember when we were talking about that? Once her day ends, it's usually done, and that's it. I mean, so you provide the service for that moment, and then that's it. You know, unless they want a hard copy of something, you know what, well, I'm providing it for a deaf person, and, you know, it was a lecture of one of the professors and you know what, I think I need a copy of that, you know, whatever, and then they pay for the copy of it. You know, that's the only thing that I can think of that, you know, where something like that would be needed. But other than that, I mean, you just provided for that day, for that moment, okay? 1, accept assignments using discretion with regard to the skill setting and consumers involved, and accurately represent the provider's qualifications for CART. 2, establish a clear understanding of who is hiring the CART provider, the role played by the CART provider in assisting with communication as opposed to the role of the official court reporter, the fact that no roughly edited electronic file is to be produced. That's what I just told you. D, the need to preserve the unedited text file with disclaimer in accordance with statute of court order and for a period of no less than 5 years. Refrain from working in the dual capacity of the official reporter and providing CART services. So you're not going to go in there as a CART provider and as the official reporter. That's what they're saying, okay? So you're not going to go in as both capacities. 4, acquire when possible information or materials in advance to prepare for a job dictionary. Know the software and hardware systems for troubleshooting. Strive to achieve as nearly as verbatim as possible 100% accuracy at all times. Include the real-time display, the identification, content, and spirit of the speaker, as well as the environmental sounds. So like, you know, we were talking about, you know, they do the rodeo. So when there's music's playing, they have this little thing where a note comes up where it shows that music's playing and then the words or whatever. And then, you know, so it'll applaud. And, you know, that's when, you know, they do that stuff. Like, we don't, like somebody stands up and it's like, you know, I demand, you know, that there be justice. Well, I'm not putting shouting or in bold or whatever. I just put unidentified, should be fool, but unidentified woman or man stands up and shouts, you know, I demand justice or whatever. You know, I don't put in there and everybody's clapping, I mean, or everybody's crying because a sad situation comes up, and that's what CART does. They provide that because, you know, sometimes the people they're hard of hearing, you know, so they can't hear these things or whatever, so they don't know, you know, kind of what's going on. Like they were talking about, she was talking about a dog that was barking outside,
Right.
you know, and it was like, you know, everybody's kind of laughing, and, you know, the girl's looking around, I think, or something, and she's like, you know, so she puts on there, you know, dog outside barking and keeps barking, you know. Do y'all remember that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know, stuff like that. Stuff that I wouldn't put, I'm not putting that on the record. There's a dog barking outside and everybody's laughing. No. But that's what CART provides. Refrain from counseling, advising, and interjecting personal opinions except as required to accomplish a task at hand. In a confidential setting, i.e. discussions, jury deliberations, attorney-client discussions, delete all files immediately after assignment unless otherwise requested to do so or court ordered by the court. 9, cooperate with all parties to ensure that effective communication is taking place. 11, preserve the privacy of consumers' personal information. 12, familiarize oneself with the provisions of NCRA, the CART Provider's Manual, and keep abreast of current trends, laws, and literature. So CART provided in a non-legal setting, that was for a legal setting, what we just went over. For a non-legal setting is 1, accept assignments using discretion with regard to skill, establish a clear understanding of who is providing the CART, whether it's electronic file or roughly edited text with disclaimer. If yes, whether all participants have been informed that an electronic file on the roughly edited text with disclaimer will be preserved. Indeed, who is entitled to receive a copy of the electronic file. Acquire, when possible, information or materials in advance. Know the software and hardware keys for troubleshooting. Strive to achieve verbatim 100%. Include in the real-time display the identification, content, and spirit of the speaker, as well as environmental sounds. So it's pretty much most of the same stuff or whatever. That you would as in a legal proceeding, or in a legal proceeding as opposed to a non-legal proceeding. Guidelines on providing uncertified rough draft copies. One, it should be noted that when an uncertified transcript copy is provided, bless you, there will be two versions of the transcript, one for proceeding, the unofficial uncertified version of the official certified version. The uncertified transcript may contain errors, some of which could be changed, could change the accuracy or meaning of the testimony. So when you give them a rough draft, you have to tell them, look, I mean, some stuff could be different, you know, whatever, but well, I just need the gist of it or whatever because I'm flying to New York or we're taking depositions tomorrow in this thing and I just kind of want the gist of it or whatever, but I really don't want to pay for, and that's usually what it comes down to. They usually don't want to pay for, but they still get a rough draft, so they're getting charged a little bit anyway, so that's not free. Rough draft isn't free. An uncertified transcript may only be distributed by ordering parties to the case. To ordering parties, it should not be made available to the public, including news organizations and other participants. So the news comes in and says, hey, I want a rough draft of that proceeding of that lady that killed that kid. No. Be very careful with that. 3, a court reporter providing an uncertified rough draft transcript should perform the task undertaken by him or her in a professional manner, observing all laws, rules, and orders of the court. A court reporter providing an uncertified rough draft transcript should keep informed of technological and other advances and improvements in skills and methods of his or her profession. A court reporter providing an uncertified rough draft transcript should not perform any service under terms or conditions which will compromise in any way his or her impartiality or the exercise of good judgment and skill. So if one side orders it and says, hey, you know, we're taking depots in this case tomorrow and, you know, I just need a rough draft, you really need to go to the other side and say, hey, look, he ordered a rough draft. You want a rough draft too? Yeah. And you're always going to find, they always think that they're one-upping the other guy. And it's like they never want to get one-upped, you know, so it's like, yeah, I want it. Okay, whatever. So that's what they're saying there, is always let the other side know. The court reporter shall take steps to ensure that no one would mistake the uncertified rough draft for a final. So a lot of times you'll have, and when you take my Eclipse thing, there's a thing under the settings where you can put like rough draft, and it prints a real light thing on the paper that says rough draft in the background. So no one's gonna get, you know, or you have a stamp that says rough draft on the front of it. You know, so an uncertified rough draft transcript should include a header or footer on each page stating uncertified rough draft transcript only. So that's what they're talking about right there. A disclaimer and or order form such as one attached should be transmitted as a cover sheet or cover sheets with each uncertified rough draft transcript stating that the uncertified rough draft transcript cannot be quoted for any purpose and may not be filed with any court. And 9, where possible, on untranslated steno strokes and conflicts should be resolved before an uncertified rough draft transcript is provided to any party. As best you can. You know, they know that it's a rough draft or whatever, so. Broadcast captioner. 1, accept assignments using discretion with regard to skill, technical capability, and settings. Assign the independent contractors using of discretion with regard to skill, technical capability, settings. Maintain the confidentiality of the employer and client's proprietary information. So clients' names, show names, rates, contract expiration dates. Acquire, when possible, information or materials in advance to prepare for a job. Know the software and hardware. Strive to achieve as nearly as verbatim 100%. include the captioning capability, display the identification content, maintain files in accordance with the employer's requirements, accept a captioning schedule only if it can be honored, notify the hiring company if time overruns to ensure open programming is covered, provide a transcript of the broadcast only if permission is granted by the hiring party, familiarize oneself with the provisions of the Certified Broadcasting Captioner Job Analysis, and keep abreast of current trends. Backup audio media. A guideline for providing backup audio media at the request of an attorney or party to a proceeding. 1, if the backup media is made available to any party in the case, it is a responsibility of the reporter to ensure that no confidential or off-the-record discussions are contained in the released recording. A reporting firm or agency may not require the reporter produce the backup audio media unless ordered to do so by the court. So what they're talking about is you going in there and recording it, which you do. I mean, you know, I have a little external mic that records to my machine in a WAV file. So wherever I put, you know, my no, on the computer, you know, wherever you put your prompt, you know, right there, and you push play, that's where it starts. You know, back in the day, you know, in the Stone Age when I first started, you know, we were using cassettes, so you had to, you know, you had this little foot pedal on this dictaphone thing that, you know, had this, you know, your cassette tape, and it was rewind, fast forward, rewind, play, you know, till you found the spot. You know, now, you know, and you just kind of fast forward, and then you do the search of what they're talking about. Oh yeah, still 45 pages, you know, in advance. Now you just put your prompt on there, push play, and it plays. So it's pretty cool. So if anybody ever comes back and says, you know what, I'm gonna need that auto recording, I need a copy of that. Yeah, no you're not. Oh, I'm getting it. Well, you better get a court order, because that's my work product, my product. You know, if you have, and I think I told you guys about the guy that came in and he had his errata sheet full, and on the back, and started another sheet of corrections that were on my depot that I took. You know, so my employer calls me and is like, hey, Dave, had a bad day? What? Yeah, this guy had like a sheet of corrections. No. Well, bring it up here. So she had me take the tape up there. We listened to it verbatim, everything. Like, I don't know what he's talking about here or whatever. Well, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. So then it got to be, well, we're not going to pay for, you know, this, you know, well, come on in. Come on in. I have a copy of the tape of my reporters, and this is exactly what he said. So, you know, the client came in, the attorney came in, and it's like, oh, yeah, that is what you said. Yeah, that is what you said. Well, I meant this. Well, I meant this. Well, you should have meant to say it in the deposition and not say that I was the one who left it out or whatever. Is that what you meant to say? No, nah. And that was kind of what I got to. I was way upset. I was mad, you know, because he's calling into question, you know, my abilities, and, you know, that I'm doing something wrong. So yeah, I was a little bit upset. Well, you know, I'm sorry, I meant, well, you should have meant to tell your attorney that before, you know, you took all of our time and stuff like this, you know. So then it was like, you know, the attorney apologized and whatever. So, I mean, it ended up being okay, but I mean, it just ended up being kind of a crazy situation. So, if the reporter decides to release the backup audio media, the reporter shall release a copy and not the original. If the reporter makes available a copy of the backup audio to one party, the same offer must be made to the other party. Reporters shall check all applicable local, state, and federal laws, regulations to ensure that creating a backup audio media is in compliance. And if a reporter used backup media, it should be preserved upon request by any party to the proceeding for the same period of time for which a reporter's notes are preserved. So, I mean, if it's a criminal case, then you have to keep it 12 years too. The good thing about it is, you know, like my files, you know, if I had to keep it, it's not that big of a deal. It's on an SD card. You know, but some people use the SD card and they use an external recorder, you know, digital recorder. So now you have to keep those files too, you know, or one or the other. So, I mean, if you keep your audio files in, you know, if you keep your WAV files, then I guess that would be okay. It would be enough. So really you only have to keep one, but you know, I've had some reporters that use like 2 backups. So now you have 3. Really? You know? Hopefully nothing happens, but whatever. Guidelines for offering backup audio media. If the reporter or member offers backup media as a value-added service, all parties should be advised prior to the start of the proceeding. If the backup audio media is provided as a value-added service, it is the responsibility of the reporter to ensure that such sound recording technique does not distort the oral proceedings and that no confidential or off-the-record discussions are contained. If a reporter or member offers backup media as a value-offered service, the reporter shall provide a copy to the requesting party and preserve the original. If the reporter or member makes available a copy of the backup media to one party, the same offer must be made to the other, and reporters and members should check all applicable local and state and federal laws and regulations to ensure that creating a backup audio media is in compliance with those laws. Any questions about that? Pretty interesting stuff. Good.
Yeah, common sense kind of.
Yes, thank you. My lovely assistant put it, couldn't have put it better. Professionalism, associations, testing, and continuing education. Okay, so we'll be discussing professionalism as it relates to the career of courtroom reporting, discuss various court reporting associations, including NCRA, discuss testing and continuing education as they relate to the field, and define what is meant by individual agency testing, state testing, and national examinations as they relate to the field of court reporting. Okay? Professionalism is the quality of having high standards that one follows in his or her career and the ability to work with great skill in one's occupation. A professional is distinct from an amateur in many respects. 10 qualities that differentiate the professional court reporter from the neophyte are as follows. Got that? Are you a neophyte?
I hope not. It doesn't sound like a good thing to be.
I think I had that for lunch. 1, a professional court reporter is conscious about doing a good job and will be satisfied and will not be satisfied with shoddy or half-hearted work. You know, and guys, that's why I told you, always take pride in what you do, okay? So I don't care if you take a test and you know that you just bombed it. Whatever, man. I'm not typing it up. Type it up. Type it up and do the best job that you can. Do the best work that you can with what you had that day, okay? Because you're going to have those days where some days you have it and other days, God, I'm struggling through my notes to see what I'm doing and, you know, whatever. And so you know that the good days are going to help you through those bad days. Does that make sense? Okay? A professional court reporter makes sure that every job is covered competently and that he or she arrives at the scheduled time. If you're there 30 minutes ahead, if you're there 15 minutes ahead, you're probably late, okay, in my book. You know, so if I was running a service, which luckily I'm not, you know, I'd always tell them, the depot's at 2, your depot starts at 1:30. So you need to be there at 1:30. And it's just to help you, and practice it now, if you can. You know, because the more you do it, the easier it's going to become. You know, because if what you do now is going to carry over into what you do later. So if you're always late, if you're always shoddy, if you're always just thrown together, if you're always discombobulated with everything and everything's in disarray, guess what? It's going to carry over. And one thing about being early is that you usually eliminate those things. So even if you have problems with the cord, it doesn't look as bad if you can call and say, hey, look, I know this is only the second depot I've taken, but I'm plugging it in, and you know, oh, you just have to change the COM port. Oh, okay, I had no idea. Looks a little bit different when you're 30 minutes ahead rather than you're already 10 minutes late, you're rushing, now it doesn't work, now you're on the phone with, you know, your firm trying to get it figured out. These guys are waiting for you, everybody's there, and it makes a bad situation even worse, okay? That's why I say get there early, you know, because this way you can always release a little bit when everything is done and it's like, everything's good, mic is up, machine's going, plugged in, tape down the cords, computer's up, working, everything is good, I've already checked it. I checked with the secretary to see what we're going to be talking about today. Got some words on that. Got my coffee. Good to go. Pull out some proofreading, start doing a little proofreading 10 minutes before the depot. They walk in, put your proofreading out, good to go. But it's when you're late and the machine and this thing, God almighty, there's nothing worse than looking disorganized. There's nothing worse than that. And then your client is there like, you know, we're 10, 15 minutes into this thing where they're getting charged. Their client's getting charged for this, you know, and it's like they're waiting on you. 30 minutes, okay? So practice it now. Even coming to school, you know what? School starts at 5:30. So I start getting here at 5:30 or 5:45. You know, to where you know that you're gonna be early. You know what? I know that the depot is downtown. I live on the north side. It takes me about 25 minutes. So you know what? I need to leave about an hour before, just in case some person had a blowout and everybody has to look and see and everything slows down and that sets you 15 minutes behind or whatever. Always think ahead, okay? A professional court reporter dresses appropriately for the job, taking into consideration the protocol of the situation. Guys, you know, I don't know that you want to wear your nightclub gear to a depot. You know what I'm saying? You know, when in doubt, always dress conservative. Always go conservative. You know, don't, you know, I wouldn't have my hair blue with spikes and all of these piercings and, you know, first impressions are lasting, you know, and it's like, you know, people don't even want to look at you because it's like, oh man, you know, whatever, and I don't want to, you know, make it look like, you know, so always present yourself in a conservative manner, okay? Trust me, it's always going to work out. It's always going to work out. A professional court reporter produces a transcript when called for that is accurate, reliable, neat, and on time. A professional court reporter charges a fair and honest price that takes into consideration the training, overhead, and equipment, time and experience of the reporter. A professional court reporter keeps abreast of the changes within the profession by attending conferences and workshops that keep the reporter informed of the profession. A professional court reporter keeps his or her equipment up to date and in excellent operating condition, making sure that it is operating at peak performance. A professional court reporter keeps his or her mind and body in good health and does not become dependent on drugs or alcohol to function. A professional court reporter treats all clients in fair, impartial, and unbiased manner. And a professional court reporter does not give in to threats or obsolescence for the professions, but works diligently with the association and organizations to help build up a professional by speaking highly of its benefits and attempting to recruit others into the profession.
What do you think that giving in part means? What would giving into threats mean?
You know, like, hey, you know, I know that you were doing some underhanded stuff with another firm or whatever, and I know that you're charging them, you know, $2 or whatever, so you're going to charge me $2 now or whatever. You don't want to get caught in that situation. I think that's kind of what they're talking about. Or, you know, I don't really know. I mean, you know, that's what I'm taking it as. I've never had somebody threaten me, you know, about the profession. Yeah. Well, you know what? I take that back. Yeah. Not threaten me, but it was like, yeah, you're going to give me that transcript for free because I filed that pauper's affidavit. No, I'm not. Yeah, you are. No, I'm not. You need to read the rules and make sure that you keep abreast of what you're supposed to do because you didn't notify me that you filed while I'm not supposed to. Yeah, you are. So you try to keep it professional until they don't. You know, and still you try to keep it professional because, you know, it's always going to come back on you. You know, so, you know, you always want to make sure that, you know, one, you have your facts straight, and two, keep it professional, which he didn't. You know, and you know, my judge had to intervene and tell him, yeah, you're wrong. What? No, you know, no, you're supposed to tell them, notify them, and he has an opportunity to hire an attorney to go in there to prove that your client isn't indigent and that they're not going to get a free transcript. So, you know, I guess that's what it means. I've never had somebody threaten me about something. But court reporting associations and national and state court reporting organizations do an excellent job in helping to maintain the dignity and respect of the profession of the court reporting. All court reporters should strive to maintain that dignity and respect by becoming active members of their local and national associations. So that's why I tell you guys, try to make the meetings as much as you can. One, they talk about pretty good stuff, you know, and it's stuff that you're probably going to use later. Like they had a CPA come in, trust me, you're going to need it, you know, because when it comes time to do your taxes, you're going to know what to be able to write off and what not to write off. And you don't want to be caught in that situation where it's like, I could write that off, right? Or you didn't write it off and you could have gotten a huge, you know, portion of your taxes covered or paid for because all of this stuff was write-offable stuff. It was able to be written off, and it was like, I didn't know we could write off, you know, mileage. Really? But so you want to keep abreast of stuff, you know, and there's always good things. One, you have to have continuing education, so you always are kept abreast of upcoming legislation, new advances in technology, all of that stuff. So it's good to keep abreast with that with local and state organizations. Testing and continuing education. The matter of testing to prove the competency of the court reporter and real-time reporters is a subject that is worth discussing because in a very real sense, the skills of the court reporter and real-time reporter are tested every day. Although the subject may seem quite direct and straightforward, it tends to get more complex as one looks at the variety of tests and examinations given in many different situations. To compound the issues, some states require testing in one situation and not in another, and other states do not require any testing at all. So, I mean, there's certain states that don't even require a test. Y'all know that, right? Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So anyone can go work as long as they get some accreditation from a school that says, yeah, she's at 180-ish or 200-ish. Yeah, so that's all they need is say, yeah, come on down. Come on down to, I think it's like Florida is one. Yeah, so, and you know, I even thought about, you know, going to Florida, and I had a friend of mine, a girlfriend of mine that was down there, and she was like, Dave, come. I mean, God, there's so much work, and it's great, and sun, and, you know, I like to fish and hunt. So it's like, oh man, that's here, and, you know, whatever. Maybe. And then I had another girlfriend of mine that was living in Oklahoma. She's like, yeah, come up here, it's great. 200 Q&A, and, you know, I was at right at 200. That was the only one that I really flew up there and took the test. And I really wasn't even ready to take the test or whatever, but it's like, if I pass, I'll go up there and work, whatever, and, you know, earn some money, you know, whatever, and then take my RPR and then come back and take the Texas CSR and move back if I ever wanted to. You know what? I'm a true believer in things happen the way that they're supposed to. And then, you know, so it didn't work out to where I was able to move to Oklahoma, and it couldn't have worked out better. You know, but I even thought about going to Trinidad. Have you guys heard about that?
No.
Trinidad and Tobago. Back in the day, you know, they were begging for people to go down there to Trinidad, to the island of Trinidad, and they paid people to go down there. One of the reports, I was trying to get her to come speak, and she flaked on me. And she's a great reporter, but she just doesn't do well in speaking to people. But she went down there. She went down there and worked for several years and loved it down there. She tried to get me to come down there. Another buddy of mine, a male buddy of mine that was in court reporting school, went down there. He never got his court reporting certificate, ever did. And he was great down there. And they said, man, I mean, but he was real technologically advanced. I mean, he knew a lot about computers and stuff. So, I mean, he was just good. And he would have been a good reporter, and he just never got out. Never finished. And another girl from the school went down there, and another guy. Actually, he works down at the federal courthouse now. I think that 3 of them did. And there was 4 of them that went. 3 of them are court reporters now, and the one never got his certification. But yeah, to work down on an island, they said, man, it's awesome. You know, you work all day or whatever, and then it's like when you're done, I mean, you're done, and party time was ridiculous, they said. So, you know, so I even thought about that. But I mean, you kind of get to that point in school where it's like, you know what? And that's why I tell you, you know, when people say, well, you have to give it 150%. Well, there's no such thing. Yeah, there is. In court reporting, there is. Because you get to that limit where you think, you know what, I can't do it anymore. I can't. You got to keep going. And that's how they weed out the rest. And, you know, to me, you know, court reporting isn't a profession of the smartest, it's the best. And you weed out the rest. It's the people that have it within themselves. It's like, you know what, it's not going to get the best of me. And it's not. That's the people that get out. The rest of them that are like, but you find every excuse under the sun not to do stuff. Yeah, you may want to look into auto mechanic and stuff like that, culinary. You know, and it's not making fun of those cats. It's just like, you're just not going to get through. You're not going to get through this, you know. It takes that extraordinary person that, you know what, it's not going to get the best of me. And I knew that it wasn't. And even I was still, you know, and I knew that it wasn't going to get the best of me, and I still was looking for, like, shoot, move to Florida, move to Oklahoma, move to Trinidad. And I was that close. There was like no light. And I missed it by about 45 minutes. I missed that call. About 45 minutes of going to Trinidad, which would have totally changed my life, totally. I mean, maybe I'd be doing what I'm doing now, maybe not. You know, but I'm a true believer that things happen for a reason. And I'll tell you that story later, but it was actually crazy. But I missed about 45 minutes. Individual agency test. Most private organizations or court reporting agencies test court reporters who wish to work for them by administering their own examination. Those examinations may consist of a grammar or punctuation test, a simple mathematics test, a spelling test, and a dictation test for which the notes or transcripts are examined for accuracy. I don't know if you guys were paying attention, but there's not really a testing for CART. They're trying to get it implemented excuse me, for CART. I don't think that they have really a testing. She does her own. Whitney does her own. You know, she sees where you're at, and she sees, I think, if she can work with you, you know what, this is something I can work with, and I think I can get this person to the point where I think I can get them to do CART, you know, whatever. It's like, no, you need to stick with court reporting. You know, but CART is that step up, you know, so it's the elite, you know, those guys. So, so she does her own testing. So that's it. I've never heard of anybody going to work for a firm and they say, you know what, we know that you passed the state test, but we're going to give you our own little test. No, you know what, if you pass that thing, you're qualified, trust me. One, there's no way you're going to cheat on that test. No way to do it. So, I mean, if you passed it, you passed it, okay? Some agencies will recognize or require a national certification, such as the Registered Professional Reporter, the RPR designation, as a prerequisite for being employed by their agency. Maybe. But, I mean, if you've passed the state test here, I would think that that's in another state. Here, it's the same qualifications as the RPR. The state test is the same qualification, so I couldn't imagine that somebody require you to have the RPR also, but individual state tests, the different tests offered within a state may be divided into tests for freelancing and tests for official reporters. Passing the state examinations may include the issuance of a professional certificate that will certify the reporter. I've never heard of that. A certified courtroom reporter. I've never heard of that test. Whatever. You know, maybe there are some tests, I mean some states that require that or whatever, but currently 29 states and 2 Canadian provinces require certification to work in some official capacity as a court reporter. The tests offered for certification vary, but most contain a written knowledge test. Y'all know that. That's what we're doing here, preparing for that. And a speed test. You know, and you know, the thing about these tests is they can be passed in legs. So it's not like, you know, if you know somebody that's a CPA, they can pass it in legs. They have certain, like us, they have certain tests that you take, and you can pass that one, I believe, in legs. This one you can't. So, you know, I think y'all know that. So I think you can go up there, and I don't even think it's possible to make 100, but you can make 200s and a 94, and you fail the whole test. Then you got to go take it again. So it's not like that. So the NCRA, the National Court Reporters Association, serves as a testing agent for court reporters throughout the United States and the world. This organization offers a series of professional examinations for court reporters, administrators, instructors, and evaluators, other approved programs. Some of the tests are recognized as standards for hiring and promotions by freelance agencies as well as official courts. They just kind of go into the various, you know, it's 225 on the two voice, 200 for jury charge, and 180 for lit. And then you have the RMR, is an advanced level reporting examination offered to those who have passed the RPR. The written knowledge portion of the exam is 100 multiple choice questions dealing with court reporting, and the speed portion is given at 200 words per minute for literary, 240 words, 240 words per minute at jury charge, and 260 at Q&A. Pretty intense. Final word about testing. At some point in every student or reporter's life, the fact must be faced that a test of some sort is imminent. Tests are necessary in order to promote and advance ourselves into the field and keep us on our toes. If you are a student facing testing situations daily, you should make any effort to put forth your utmost in every class. You should attend class every day. You should separate study time from practice time, and study time is used for book learning, and practice time is used for writing, reading, and transcribing. Your study time should be divided into separate portions for each subject. In reading back, circle any errors in your notes and make a mental note of the words that are giving you problems. Even if you are using real time, you can still read your notes by invoking the software command to show your notes. For court reporters who are preparing for agency, state, or national tests, take the time to prepare correctly. If possible, obtain copies of previous examinations that will simulate what the questions and speed portion will be like. And a number of good books, study aids, and various materials are available on the market for those preparing to take the test. So, I mean, we can cover almost everything in this class. You have no idea what's going to be on that test. I mean, sometimes it's good. Sometimes, you know, like about a year ago where no one passed the state written test. You know, we had, I think, 2 students that passed the machine portion, at least one, and she didn't pass the written. It couldn't work. But no one passed it, no one. And there was like 20-something people, I think, that took it. No one passed it. And then it comes around the next time and like 10 people pass it, you know, 12 people pass it, or, you know, something crazy. So, I mean, it just make it, you know, sometimes it can be extremely difficult, and other times it's just easy. Or not easy, but easier. But, so continuing education, in a very real sense, the education of a profession never ends. He or she is constantly striving for ways to increase his or her knowledge to keep the pace with the changing role of the court reporter in an ever-changing technological environment. In addition, almost all certification tests offered by the NCRA require earning a certain number of continuing education or CEU points. Continuing education units are offered for attendance of local, state, or national court reporting conferences, workshops, or seminars. A growing trend has been offering continuing education credits for court reporter courses taught over the internet or through distant learning. So you can do it. I mean, if you're just like, man, I waited till the end and here I am, and you know, they have ones where you can go to, like you guys have gone to, where it's 3 days. You know, y'all's was only like 1 day, I think. But I mean, the court reporter, the working court reporters is like the 3 days. So you start on that Thursday, and they may have some classes that Thursday, but it's usually all day Friday, all day Saturday, and usually some of Sunday. So you have to make sure that you get certain points in certain categories. So your ethics is one of the big ones, you know, that they want to make sure that you get your ethics points. And then there's some where, I'm trying to think of his name, Jeff. Anyway, he's one of the guys that gives, and it's like in a 1 day, but it's all day. I mean, you get there at like 8 o'clock and you leave at like 5 o'clock, and you have like a working lunch. So you get all of your points in 1 day, and really what you're supposed to get is like 10 hours of stuff. You know, so they, you know, sometimes, I mean, we've done it where I think he wanted to get out early or whatever, so we had a working lunch, or they give you a lunch and you just get like an hour and you can sit there and eat and kind of visit or whatever. So Jeff Justice, and his is kind of a comedy. You know, he kind of makes fun, you know, and it's kind of, you know, through learning, it's actually pretty cool. I've taken it, a couple of his, because I've waited till the last minute. So I had to drive to Houston one time, and then I took, you know, one here. I've taken 2 here, and 1 in Houston one time, where it's like I really waited till the last minute, you know, which, dumb. But, I mean, you have to get your continuing education every 2 years.
Do you get points for teaching?
No, I wish, because I would have about 80,000 points for teaching. You're not going to.
So you usually get them at the conference?
Yeah.
See.
Yeah, so you still have to go to conferences or whatever to get it, but yeah. So, any questions about that?
You know how Kristen said that for the federal, if, say if she got her registered merit reporter, she'd get a raise? Do y'all get raises if y'all get those for the county
No.
and everything?
You know, fortunately, unfortunately, we don't. You know, so I mean, what we make is what we make. You know, like I make a little bit more because of longevity, but I mean, we pretty much make the same. You know, there's a little bit difference for, you know, like I said, the longevity, but for the most part, we make the same, and you make what you make. You know, it has nothing to do with your continuing ed or testing or whatever. So. I guess we'll get through it. So maybe we'll. Chapter 32, research for the record, internet research, citations of authority. So list some common dictionaries that may be included in the court reporter's reference library. List common topical dictionaries that may be included in the reporter's reference library. List some common legal references that may be included. List some common medical references that may be included. List some encyclopedias. List some common grammar and punctuation references. List some references that may be included in the court reporter's reference library. List of some miscellaneous books that may be included. How the internet may be used in researching for the record, and discuss the reporting or legal citations as it relates to court reporting transcripts. Okay, someone once said that success in life is not measured by how much one knows, but rather by whether a person knows where to look for answers to questions. The ability to research and find the correct answer to questions that arise when transcribing is a very important quality that every court reporter should strive to acquire. Whether it is as simple as looking up a definition of a word or the double checking of the reference of a legal citation, the court reporter has to be sure what he or she records or transcribes is correct. You will find that words that sound alike have two totally different meanings, and they must be in correct context. For example, the combing of a ship is different from the combing of the hair, and the calling of witnesses is different from the calling of witnesses. Okay? So you have all kinds of things. They were talking about illicit, illicit, and illicit, I think. I think there's three of them. It's illicit, illicit. I think there's three. Totally different meanings. Totally different meanings. Okay, so you're not going to have an